Welcome to an all-new episode of the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. This is Corey Richmond, joined by Jason Brooks. Jason, another week of wrestling in the books. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Well, I'm pretty sure you're doing a little better than the current Raw announce team situation. I mean, 6 weeks of Adnan Virk, he out. Now we're going with Jimmy Smith, who was the play-by-play guy for Bellator. I mean, he's done a couple of things with analyst work now for NXT, which, seemed good. And Todd Phillips, who we saw basically left the world when WrestleMania happened, now is officially out of the company. So it's been a crazy week in the broadcasting end.
I mean, not even the broadcasting end, the whole end. They've released 60 people this week. I guess they're consolidating departments. So a lot of people, it's not just the announcers and Adnan Virk, RIP WWE announcing career. But I mean, a lot of people lost their jobs this week. Kind of a crazy week in the WWE in terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, not funny, but it's kind of interesting. Since the days of, Jim Ross and Michael Cole, and, there hasn't truly been a ton of stability in this Raw announce team. I mean, you did have for a while Todd Phillips and Samoa Joe and Brian Saxon over, maybe the last year or so. Both Joe and Todd Phillips are both out. I think we could all agree Adnan Virk wasn't very good. I mean, the last week or two.
He wasn't not very good. He was fucking terrible.
And the curses have started. All right.
He was terrible. He was so bad. Like during the pay-per-view, Corey Graves and Saxon basically started calling a match. They essentially were calling the match. And I think that's when they knew, okay, I think we're done here. And basically, I think before the most recent Raw, they already knew like this is gonna be your last Raw. And he tried to save some face, and the WWE didn't bury him, saying it's a mutual termination, and he said he wanted to spend time with his family or whatever. It's like, come on, you wouldn't have taken it. You knew what this job entailed. You knew you were going to have to travel on Sundays. You're going to have to travel every week. The travel's too much in your family. You take a couple hour flight to Florida every week. Come on. So but the WWE did a good job of not burying the guy on the way out. It was an arrangement that wasn't ever going to work. We knew it pretty quickly. He was not a wrestling fan. It was not something that he was super into, and he wasn't very good at it. So we'll see what this Jimmy Smith guy does. I guess he was an MMA fighter as well. So had a couple of fights. So I think it could be, it'll be fine. For the most part, the announcers don't make or break a show, but they could certainly make it a lot worse to listen to.
But you know what? I do think that one of the things I said when we started this, just like Adnan Virk had never done, play-by-play for wrestling, you have Jimmy Smith, who's great at doing MMA. He does a show on Sirius XM. He did Bellator. He's one of the leading authorities when it comes to MMA. And Jay, I don't know if you remember the couple things he's done over the last, month or two when it comes to like NXT stuff, but the guy's never done play-by-play. And I've never done play-by-play. I know you did play-by-play for, college basketball and different things over the years. There's a difference of doing the play-by-play guy and the color guy, and he's just slipping in to be once again, a guy outside of the business to be the face of the product again.
I don't think it's a big deal. I think if you clearly have passion for the industry, if you clearly are into what you're doing, the passion will show. If you make mistakes, who cares if you make mistakes? You mess up a guy's name here or there, you mess up a thing or two. But if you're super into it, then that'll shine through and people will generally give you the benefit of the doubt. He's not going to be Jim Ross circa 2001, immediately. But if he shows he has some passion for the business, Graves and Saxon can help develop him. I think he'll be fine. The thing with Adnan Virk is, one, his voice is horrible. He's not, I said this before, he's not a play-by-play guy, but not only is he not a play-by-play guy, like he just didn't have a lot of passion for the business. So it just wasn't going to work. So I think this guy, I mean, who knows? But I'm certainly willing to give him a chance. When they said Adnan Virk, I knew that was going to be a disaster. I don't know this guy that well. He's well respected, and he really respects the business. You know, like I feel like he's going to know who these wrestlers are. Like you see that with Pat McAfee. Yes, you know, obviously Vince is feeding him, you know, lines and whatever. But a lot of this is Pat McAfee's personality shining through, and his respect for the wrestlers and the industry shines through. And I think that's important when when these guys are announcing shows. So you know, if he respects the business and is passionate about it, I think he's got a shot.
Yeah, I hope so. And like I said, I'm not trying to be super negative in regard to Jimmy Smith, because like I said, I really do respect his work when it comes to MMA, and he's helped me make, you know, a couple of smart decisions, telling other people when to, you know, maybe bet on a fight here or there. I mean, he's super smart when it comes to that.
You don't tell me any of this. What are we doing
I
here?
gave you one.
You did give me one. You did give me one. You're right. You're right.
Rose Namajunas.
Yes, you did give me one.
But the other part about this is, and just looking up some stuff, he said in a couple of interviews that he hasn't watched wrestling since he was a kid. And yes, he's one of those guys who researches everything. And since he did his interview for the job, he said he's been watching basically every second of WWE programming, you know, I guess like the last month or so. You know, I do hope that this is a better thing than, you know, I mean, nobody's gonna be Mike Adamle. That was just the death of, you know, announcing for.
Well, let's not. The man's got some other stuff, so let's not go crazy with him. But
you know what I'm saying? He was just, you know,
awful. He wasn't into it. Yeah.
But you know, I'm hoping for the best. And you know, before we move on, you know, just Todd Phillips. I thought that yes, just like every other announcer that WWE has had, he just comes to be part of the scenery. And you sit there going, do any of these guys sound any different? And can you tell one from the other? And, you know, what if I gave him the job like to Vic Joseph, who I think's done a good job on NXT?
Can we leave Vic Joseph in NXT? Let's leave him down there. He's doing a really good job. Don't bring him up to the scum of Raw. Leave him down there. He's doing a nice job. Him, Wade Barrett, and Beth Phoenix have really good chemistry together. I really enjoyed the three of them. Please just keep him down there.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying.
But I understand you bring Vic Joseph up, and then Tom Phillips takes over for NXT.
Or you know what? If you want to let Jimmy Smith figure this stuff out, and especially on the show that NXT is, which is more of like a sports feel at times, and you have guys who do like a lot of mixed martial arts moves, like a Kyle O'Reilly and a Kushida. It could be a way to, you know, get him in there a little bit better, and especially the fact he was doing, you know, these things for NXT. I think it might have been a better fit, you know, short term. And if you wanted to bring him up to the main show, at least to get his feet wet in NXT.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Throw him to the wolves. We'll see what happens. You know, what are we doing? You're training to be a wrestling announcer. Just throw him out there, see if he could do the job, see if he gets better. Who cares? I mean, you know, again, as long as he's okay, it'll be fine. If he's a distraction from the show with how bad he is, that's when it becomes an issue. And you know, maybe he'll improve.
So I guess I'll ask you this. You may not watch it on Monday because of Memorial Day weekend, but will you at least watch Jimmy Smith's first show to see if he's any good? Or is Raw is so bad, I'm not even to find out if this guy can actually.
Yeah, I'll see what Jason Powell tells me about his debut. I mean, I have no great. I haven't watched the show, and it doesn't seem like anything's happened. Like nothing happens on the show. It's so long, nothing happens. You know, there's nothing happening on the show that's entertaining or exciting at all. So to me, like, I don't know. I know they're gonna give, you know, Kofi a shot here. So maybe I'll watch Memorial Day. Depends on what's happening with the NBA. It's hard with the playoffs. There's a lot of games on. There's a lot going on.
So last thing on this, does Jimmy Smith last 6 weeks, or does he get fed up? Or
okay, all right, come on, you know? all right, come on.
All right, fine. Quickly, Raw for the first time in weeks wasn't terrible. I've been finding it interesting where some of these angles do go. I mean, you've got the stuff with Kofi and Drew McIntyre next week. having the rematch, which if there's any interference from Bobby Lashley, he gets suspended for 90 days. It'll be interesting. I mean, I do think the answer is Lashley versus Drew at Hell in a Cell, but it will be interesting where they go with Kofi, especially with it looks like New Day versus RK Bro looks like mostly the next direction. So I mean, we're interesting to see where they go with that stuff.
Yeah. Does Kofi, is this just a one thing for Kofi to give him, another, spot, another chance at the spotlight, or does he actually have a legit chance of winning? And how long are they going to drag this McIntyre Lashley feud out for? Would this go to SummerSlam? Will be done at Hell in a Cell. So I think that'll be interesting. And Corey, the fact that they're trying to get challengers out of the, finding them out of the weeds here with Kofi Kingston, who's been a tag team wrestler for so long, it shows you they don't have a lot of guys. I know we're going to talk about NXT later, and one of those guys could possibly be Finn Balor, but just there's a similar issue on SmackDown where Roman Reigns needs some challengers, and Lashley's going to need some challengers if he gets by Drew. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So let's get into the show on Tuesdays that we truly enjoy. Sorry, NWA, you got behind a paywall. Sorry, we don't talk about you. But NXT, I thought it was another good week. I don't think it was as good as the last 2 weeks of programming, but I thought, everything worked pretty well. I thought the Frankie Monet debut, I thought she felt like a star. I mean, Jay, you may disagree with that. I thought
I think they've built her up that way over the last, several weeks. So yeah.
And as much as neither of us love Karrion Kross on the NXT level, we think that he's more of a main event character. I think him and Finn Balor worked well together, and I think the match delivered.
Yeah, I agree. I think this Finn Balor run has really showed me how good he is, and the development of his character. So yeah, and he did a great job with Karrion Kross. It was a very good match. Probably about as good of a match as you can get from Karrion Kross. And he won the title. So, he's got a lot of potential challengers. And they've done a good job of already lining those people up. They had Swerve Scott. I think he talked more about the North American title, but you have a lot of people potentially lined up. Pete Dunne, Kyle O'Reilly. What happens with Adam Cole? So there's already a bunch of people who could go for that title. So yeah, no, definitely a solid show. NXT's always a good show, a good solid show. So we'll see what happens with Karrion Kross and the title moving forward.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a moment here. They announced that next week there's going to be a 3-way match for the number one contender to face Karrion Kross at In Your House. It's going to be 3 of the bigger names of the company that aren't Adam Cole. You've got Johnny Gargano, Cool Kyle, and Pete Dunne. It's always weird when a guy loses a title and then he gets a shot at the bigger title the following week. But Johnny Gargano is one of the 3 faces of NXT. So and especially the way that you had the interaction with him and Karrion Kross from like 2 weeks ago during the singles match. I buy the fact why he would be in it. But what's your thoughts on this match? Do you see them finally pulling the trigger on Pete Dunne, who, yeah, he's a heel, but I mean, it feels like he might be the next guy, or is it Kyle O'Reilly again? I mean,
yeah, I think Karrion Kross is definitely playing the kind of tweener, and so I guess you could have him go against a heel. You don't want Kyle O'Reilly to be the guy because he just already had that opportunity and lost. So the next time he goes for the title, you assume he's going to win it. And that's generally how they've built guys up in the past. Gargano, I think, is just there to be there because he's such an established guy.
So he's a usual two-way guy where he's the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy to lose. And so I think he's there to take the pin. So I think by process of elimination, I think Pete Dunne is the guy. And he could lose and still be all right because they've kept him pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think if if I was putting money on it, I think Kyle O'Reilly wins the match, but I'd love to see Pete Dunne get that opportunity, especially.
Corey, they can have O'Reilly lose a title match again.
Well, maybe you're right. I
I mean, that's just rough.
I
Three
don't,
times losing a title. At what point do you say, okay, well, it's just not going to happen for him?
it's just weird though. Unless it's Gargano, which I don't think either one thinks it is. It kind of feels like the next time Dunn or O'Reilly go for the title, feels like they should win it. So I mean, it's
Yeah, Dunn's had what? One, he had one title shot, right, against Balor.
yeah, and I guess Scott and O'Reilly had two.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, could go either way. I guess it could go either way, but someone's gonna lose to Karrion Kross.
Agree. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I guess the other reason why I would like, well, besides being a huge fan of Pete Dunne, you can honestly say before this match this week, the best match that Karrion Kross has had in NXT was the match versus Santo Escobar, and that's a guy who's a similar build, you could say, size wise, as Pete Dunne. So I think that he could really have a good match with a smaller.
Yeah, and also we have to throw into the mix that Adam Cole could come out and cost O'Reilly too.
That's true.
Because Cole has kind of hinted that it's not over. It's not over. So I certainly could see Cole coming and interfering, and that's how maybe O'Reilly takes the pin because so then Gargano's not hurt and Dunn's not hurt and Dunn gets the win, but O'Reilly doesn't look bad because of interference. So I say maybe you see some Adam Cole interference next week.
Yeah, I could see that. So before we get to a couple other things with this, I just want to go back to Frankie Monet. She looked, like I said, she looked like a star. Where do you see them going with her, at least short term? Is it like, you had the interaction with Io Shirai during that segment? You could also maybe, I mean, I don't want to see it, but she did use Beth Phoenix's finisher, and Beth Phoenix did say, that looks familiar. I mean, easiest way to put a rub on somebody big is to have them, basically take out a legend. I mean, what direction do you see them going, especially with Ember most likely getting the next shot at the women's title?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing, right? She can go anywhere. She could go against Sashi Blackheart. That might be a good first opponent. Shotzi Blackheart in the past has been kind of the gatekeeper, so maybe you could have her be that. Is it too soon for EO? Do you have to work your way up to get her? Maybe, because she's the top dog other than Raquel Gonzalez. So then where do you go? So I think that's where maybe maybe a Sashi Blackheart, maybe a Beth Phoenix Legends type of match, something like that might work. But yeah, but I don't think it'll be Io. I think maybe it's a little early to be her, but who knows? Who knows? I don't see it though.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you had the tag team match this week with Ember and Shotzi versus Dakota, Raquel Gonzalez. Now, usually we wouldn't talk about this match in live depth, but I think we could all honestly say that they're putting Ember Moon up against Raquel next due to the fact that Ember, basically hit her finisher on her. A ton of the offense that the team got on Raquel was from Ember,
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And I think eventually they're going to build to Dakota Kai against Raquel Gonzalez. You could see that with Raquel being super aggressive after all these matches and Dakota Kai looking kind of timid and not wanting to be as ultra aggressive. And I think that could be a tremendous story that they do at some point. Like Dakota Kai is great from fighting underneath as the kind of plucky underdog. I think that's been her big role. And she's a great baby face as well. So yeah, I think that probably is where they're ultimately going to go for a takeover. I don't know when the next takeover is, but I
believe it's June 15th.
June 15th. Oh my gosh, it's only a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah.
So probably Ember and Raquel will be the next match. And then after that, they'll build up to. But then who's going to challenge Lorray and the other woman there, and Indy Hartwell. I mean, who's gonna challenge? Who's gonna challenge them?
That's a good question. I mean, that's one of the sad parts of NXT. You basically have only 3 tag teams. I mean, so I don't know. It also looked like they
Yeah,
kind
but
of.
they didn't get their rematch though, did they? And they won the match against Raquel and Dakota Kai. So naturally, you would think they would get the title shots at Takeover.
Well, but I think you could also be telling the story of how badly Shotzi got taken out, where maybe she's on the shelf for a little while, and that's how Ember
Yeah.
goes for the women's title.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, she got the shit kicked out of her. So, I mean, it makes sense. So, Court, one thing is, and I'm sure you have more topics to talk about NXT. I'm really excited about the tag division. We've talked about it a little bit, but man, they've done a really good job of making all these guys feel like everybody. And I think AEW they did this for a long time. And then they started to get into like, angles and stuff like that. We got to do certain things. So, and I get it, Mox is a star, and so he's got to be in a big part of the pay-per-view. But I feel like when it came to AEW originally, you had a bunch of teams who could win. The Lucha Bros, SCU, Page and Omega, the Bucks, Jurassic Express. You had a bunch of teams that could possibly get up there and win. Now you don't really feel that way, right? I feel like with NXT, I feel like they've done a good job of highlighting the Grizzled Young Veterans can win. Imperium can win. Ciampa and Thatcher can win. Even Legado del Fantasma could win. So they've done a nice job in Everrise is like the plucky comedy babyface tag team. So they've done a nice job of really giving us the idea that, anyone can win the tag titles, which I think is really good. And I'm excited for all these tag matches and to see where they go.
I would agree with that. I think that they've really done a good job of putting interest in the tag team division over the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, I don't know if I care about MSK as the champions. I think they're better. They almost feel better as the guys going for the titles, but they're really good. All the other tag teams that you mentioned are either good to solid or great even. Some of these things. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I still think if you put one against the other, I mean, the AEW still has a stronger tag team division. But like you said, with the storyline of the Bucks and Omega and everyone trying to be these unbeatable teams, the idea of another team actually beating them has become a little bit harder to buy. So I mean, I totally get that. That does make sense.
Yeah. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But I'm excited for. I agree with you. MSK shouldn't be the champions. I feel like they should be fighting for the titles, and they should whatever. So I think that's a little bit of a mistake. Not a big deal. Good for those guys having the titles. And we'll see where they go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess we could quickly bring it up just because it looks like it's something that could be a bigger story going down the line. We had the $1 Million Man come in this past week, and there have been rumors that the $1 Million Championship is coming back. What was your thoughts, I guess, quickly on Cameron Grimes and LA, one of the worst names, LA Knight?
LA Knight.
I'd rather say Eli Drake.
Yeah, I think Eli Drake's like way better. But
what were your thoughts on the segment, and do you care about the $1 Million title coming back?
I thought it was pretty good. I love the Cameron Grimes kind of turning into a baby face. I think that's the natural progression, kind of his character, and I think he could be like a fun baby face to root for. And Eli Drake, LA Knight, is the perfect heel guy to wrestle with him. So yeah, I love mid card feuds, and I love that they try to get storylines out of it. Also, LA Knight's Jordans looked fantastic. His Jordans were great. Just want to point that out. But no, I enjoyed the segment. I'm glad Ted DiBiase's getting some shine. He was one of my top 5 favorite guys in the 80s for sure. So I really want him to win the title at WrestleMania 4 in the tournament. But we'll see how things go. With that, I think we're going to continue to see the ascent though of Cameron Grimes. I think LA Knight's going to be a guy who they can push if they feel like it, but he's kind of the veteran who's always going to be, not always going to be, but I think he's going to be a guy who is not a guy that's going to be pushed up to the title necessarily. I think he's going to be more of I don't want to say a jobber to the stars, but I could see that more being his role. But it's Cameron Grimes' time. They've put a lot into him, a lot of vignettes, a lot of promos, a lot of time. I think the fans are behind him. I think it's his time to get a little bit of a run.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, I don't ever see him being the champion of champions, but I can see that.
No.
Cameron Grimes, this is time to do a little bit more, and I'm glad to see that they're giving him this shot. So Jay, I have a quick question for you. I think I already know the answer, but this past Wednesday, no wrestling on because it's going to be on Friday. What did you do with your Wednesday night, not having to go and watch AEW Dynamite? I'm sure the answer.
I watched the NBA, watched basketball. It's a lot of basketball on, so I did that. And honestly, I was like, oh, AEW, oh, it's not on tonight. Oh, well, I watched the NBA. So, yeah, I mean, this is just a great time of year. I wasn't huge into the NBA the last couple of years, but the bubble got me in, and I started reading and doing a bunch of research and betting, and now I'm all in on the NBA.
That's the answer. Betting.
No, I honestly I watching that Knicks Hawks game on Sunday. I didn't have a bet on that game at all. It was amazing to watch, a crowd and get into it. So yeah, no, I don't. I mean, it was sports magic. So the crowds are back too. So I think it's been fun. Hasn't been great for the pocketbook, but so yeah, I don't know. I'm okay. I know wrestling's going to be AEW is going to be in a real funny spot the next couple of weeks because of the playoffs, but it is what it is. I think maybe now is the time to. So Corey, that's a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think now is the time? Now I know, they got Double or Nothing, and then the next big show, is it All Out?
No, I think they'll have either Fight for the Fallen or there's a summer pay-per-view, like a Bash at the Beach or something. I'm not sure if that will be it.
Yeah, but those aren't really big shows. Their next major pay-per-view is All Out, right? So, they're gonna have All Outs in what end of August, right? So
Labor Day weekend.
So they do have some time to play with here, and the shows are gonna be at crazy times because of the playoffs. Maybe now is a time to experiment. We talked about doing vignettes, which they did promos last week. That was a little bit better. Maybe now is a time to highlight some of the people in Dark who have been doing well. They did that segment with the Bear Mountain guys, whatever their names are, the tag team there, Bear Country. And it was it was a nice segment. Maybe now is a time you don't have to do a Jericho with 8 segments, the Elite with 5 segments, Moxley with 4 segments, and then, oh shit, we don't know what else is on the show, right? Now, maybe it's a time to get younger people in there, more vignettes, because this, why not experiment? They're not going to have their consistent viewership because of everything going on. So I don't know. I think now might be a time to experiment. Corey, what do you think? Or do you think they're better because of the time slots being crazy, of just going with their stuff that works, the Bucks, Cody, that type of thing?
I think you go with what works, but at the same, because if you're going to try to get people ready for 10 o'clock, starting August 13th for, Rampage, at least these next 2 weeks, people are going to expect to see stars. And if you want to get people used to this new, watching wrestling on Friday after SmackDown, I think you got to give them the big people and have them in big segments, because this is, especially like what they did with the women's tournament earlier this year on YouTube, to figure out people would, kind of get used to the idea of watching it Monday at 7 o'clock, which turned to Elevation. I think you have to get people used to watching at a certain time. And if you just have, your mid-level guys on the next couple of weeks when they're on Friday, I don't think that's going to get people in the mindset that there's something important to watch on Friday, especially when they're telling you.
But eventually they have to elevate these people.
That's true.
And you could maybe give Jericho 1 segment instead of 4. I'm being funny. Give him 1 instead of 3, 1 instead of 2. I don't know. I just think that maybe this is the time to experiment. I do think like I said, their show last week was one of their best shows they've ever had, in my opinion. And so maybe they're starting to go in the right direction of slowing the show down. So yeah, as far as the getting fans ready for 10 o'clock, I don't think that means nothing to me. It's 2 months. It's 2 months away. You're not getting fans ready for anything. So I don't think that's even a thing. Also, they're not going to be on Fridays at 10 all the time anyway. This Friday is different because it's the Friday before pay-per-view. Friday before. This Friday is before pay-per-view though, so that's a different kind of show. Mm-hmm. I'm saying like in general, and the next 2 Fridays are going to be at 10, and it's going to be at random time. So I don't think you're getting anyone ready for anything. Like, oh man, remember that show 2 months ago I watched when they had Moxley? It was great. Now I have to start watching again. Like that's not what's going to happen. But yeah, I guess we'll see. But I would like for them to change things up. This Friday show is different. They have to get ready for the pay-per-view. But over the next couple of weeks, it'd be nice to see them continue to spotlight some of the younger talent.
I agree with you. It's a tricky balance to see what will and what
it is.
Work.
It is.
So let's get into a little bit of AEW. This week's show coming up tomorrow on Friday after SmackDown. We're not going to really talk about it because the show doesn't look on paper. Your main event is Miro versus one of the Young Flyers. So it isn't exactly
the Young Flyers.
Top Flight. I'm sorry, Top Flight.
Top Flight. Oh, the one guy who's not hurt.
Yeah, it could be a very fun match for however long it goes because
that's the main event.
Well, that's the match that they. Well, I think they have Janela versus Adam Page.
Oh boy, Joey Janela making an appearance. All right, so they definitely punting this show. It's basically. What'd you say? I'm
sure they'll announce something the day of.
Yeah, but they're punting this show. I mean, the way they've hyped these shows up. This is a pay-per-view preview, basically, which I think is what it should be. Yeah. Do stories, do vignettes, get people hyped for the pay-per-view. That's the job of this show. Please don't give me some 20-minute long Miro match against the top guy from Top Flight. Right. Let's do some stories to get me hyped for this show that I'm spending $60 on the next day or 2 days later.
There you go. All right, so I'm going to say as I always do. I know that's 4 shows a year, and AEW hasn't really disappointed, except for, things not exploding at the end of their last show. What's your interest level going into Double or Nothing?
Well, don't we usually go over the shows and then I say, all right.
I give you a before you know everything.
There's been just so much going on in my life. It's hard to talk about the pay-per-view in terms of my excitement level. I'm interested. I think the one thing that's got me not feeling great is the world title match. I wish we had more of a build for the world title match. So I'd say that's the one thing. So I'd say I'm like a 5, a 4 or 5. And the one match they've hyped up the most is Inner Circle against Pinnacle, which I'm sure I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun, but I'm not like, oh my God, I need to watch this. I can't wait for this match. So I would say I'm a 4 or a 5.
All right. I guess I'm a little bit higher. I'm somewhere in that 6.5 to 7 range because I do think that some of these matches on paper can be really good. And I have enjoyed, the Britt Baker push and some of the stuff they've done with, not the Inner Circle, with the Young Bucks and Eddie and Moxie. So I think some of those things have been done well. But I totally understand how this Friday night show could be a big thing for people on the fence to really decide what they want to do with this show. But
yeah, I think, and I want to preface it by saying, I think it'll be a good show. I think there's matches I'm looking forward to. I'm just not at that fevered pitch. You know what I mean?
No, totally get that. And I can understand that. So let's start off. We've got Brian Cage versus Adam Page. And basically, I would think Adam Page getting his win back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Actually, I think it should be a really fun match, but I don't really think it's a match that I'm going out of my way that would
No, I think
make
it
that,
could be. It
rocket
could be
show.
it definitely could be one of the two best matches on the show.
Mhm.
For sure. Yeah, I think it could be a really, really good. I mean, yeah, next to the tag match, we'll kind of get into it, but yeah, I think that could be one of the best matches on the show.
And, now, this match we're going to speak about for a moment because it's the first time in 6 years the Icon Sting will actually have a true wrestling match. I know that when he signed, we were both like, we never want to see him in a match, but he's done a couple of, slightly physical activities, taking the power bomb from Brian Cage, but it's Sting and Darby Allin versus Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. I think Page and Scorpio Sky need the win badly to go and make them actually seem legitimate, but it's Sting's first match in 6 years. I'm going to go with Page and Scorpio, but I would not be shocked if the wrong decision gets here because Darby Allin's such a star.
I think you have to have Page and Scorpio Sky win. I just you just can't, because Scorpio Sky said, "I'm my own man. I'm not dealing with SCU," and then he joins a tag team with Ethan Page, who like kind of wanted to be a singles wrestler, is now in a tag team. So I think you can't have them lose. Oh, it'd be such a bad result for them. It'd be such a bad result. And I think Corey, so Team Taz lost this thing, and they kind of haven't been the same as well since that loss. So you can't have 60-year-old Sting win these matches. Like what does it mean? So I think you have Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page win. I just think if they win a match, what do you do with them after? Like, what's the end game with them? Which I don't know. Another stable. They love their stables in AEW. So I think you have to have. I mean, I'm gonna go with the result I feel like you really have to have, and that's Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky going over.
Agreed.
And what they do with Sting and how they figure him out physically and yeah, a 60-year-old guy with spinal issues. It's real dangerous. But clearly he's in excellent shape. Like he looks great. And so, I mean, I'm sure he could piece together a decent match. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. A match that I think should. I love both guys as workers, but I really think this should be like a headlining match of a Dynamite, not on pay-per-view. Miro versus Lance Archer for the TNT title. I don't think it's nearly time to take the title off Miro after only winning it, and pretty much every champion has had the title for a while. I think it should be a really fun match, just two big guys beating the crap out of each other for 8 to 12 minutes. But I think Miro has to hold on to the title.
Yeah. No, I agree. To me, you have to have Miro hold on to the title. I don't the hype for this show just has not been great. Or for this match has not been great.
Well, it's only been 2 weeks. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So yeah, it hasn't been great. And I think it puts Archer just in a bad position. He keeps getting these big opportunities. He keeps losing these big opportunities. Where does he continue to go? How does he look relevant? You can call yourself the monster and do a move off the ropes, but then at the end of the day, you're going to lose when it counts. So, yeah, I see him losing. Maybe after this, Archer turns on Jake. I don't know where they go with it, but I think Archer definitely loses.
A match that we spoke about a couple of weeks back after the promo, Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo. I think it's a really big spot for Ogogo, who has basically had, 5 more wrestling matches than me and you have had at this point. I'm hoping if they have faith in Ogogo to do this, hopefully it's a good match. Ogogo should win. I think, but you know what? I think I said this on last week's show. When Cody Rhodes is taking the name of his father for the calling himself the American Dream, it seems like a little weird for him to lose. But I do think the younger guy should definitely win this match.
So I don't know if you, Corey, if you read the stuff with Cody talking about how focus groups and blah blah blah.
I spoke about that on the media call today, and he said that he misspoke. It was just
yeah
about different people matter, but it did make him look like an idiot.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna get to. Yeah. So he said he did focus groups, and he said, I was a dummy. That's not what I meant. I meant I go to people I trust and blah blah blah. But yeah, yeah, the promo was very strange. The build for the match has been like, holy shit, we don't have anything for Cody to do. And it also shows you that he's a star, and obviously he's one of the EVPs. But man, it is funny. It's like, oh my, we need Cody to do something. So be America or whatever. I see no way he loses this match. He has lost a lot of big matches, but I can't see him losing this one. And I don't know what this match is going to look like because I love Cody. And I think in the ring, he's very solid. He has no Ric Flair in the ring. So let's see what kind of match he gets out of Anthony Ogogo.
I agree. And, I do think Ogogo has to win, but I do think you're right. So we're getting into a lot of the bigger matches now. A couple more left here to talk about. Actually, let's talk about the one that I think that could be really fun, but depending on who the surprise is, it could be a disappointment. We've got the Casino Battle Royal, 21 man. Me and you were at one at All Out last year, which they're going to have again an all women's one coming out All Out in Chicago again this time around. But you basically have all of the also rants of who aren't in major matches. Christian Cage's, Cole Cabana, Jungle Boy. You have those types in this match. I'm not asking you who you think is going to win the match because it could be anybody. But I think the more important question here is who's the wild card, number 21. Because I think the fans expect a huge name. Every time it's going to be CM Punk. It's not CM Punk, but Andrade's out there as a free agent. Daniel Bryan's a free agent. If they don't deliver a big name, and if it's just some guy who's out there, is that going to hurt this match? At least maybe not in your mind, but in the fans' mind, they're expecting a big surprise. And
I feel like they haven't hyped this up as much as they normally do.
It's true.
I feel like normally there's stuff in it. I mean, when it was Cage, they really were like buttering us up. I feel like I haven't seen that as much this time. So if it's not a big surprise, I don't think the fans will be disappointed initially. First time with that many live people, the first time the Daily Center's full or Daly's place is full. So I think people will be disappointed. I think you'll audibly hear that. But I don't think ultimately like where, when they hyped up Christian Cage, it's like, you better spend your money and watch this because Christian Cage is going to be here. Some unknown superstar is going to be here. I don't feel like we're getting the same level of hype, but yeah, there'll be disappointment. I have no expectations because who knows? Now, as far as who it could be, maybe someone from the Forbidden Door, possibly, but I know they're having a lot of issues with COVID, so maybe not.
I guess maybe the better thing here is, what do you think of percentage chance, as a gambling guy that you are, that it is, and I'm not going to say which one, but it is Bryan or Andrade.
Well, Andrade can't wrestle yet.
Yeah, he had when he left, it was he can go wherever he want right away. That was he was the weird one. But do we see Andrade, because you have the Triple Mania match?
Yeah, I think Andrade would be the guy who I think Bryan Bryan needs to be. He needs to do what Adam Cole did at the end of NXT with the Drew McIntyre and Andrade, when he hit McIntyre with the belt and he held the belt up. I just got here and I'm fighting for the title. That's what's happening. I'm not doing some bullshit battle royal. I'm going to be here. I'm fighting for the title. That's what Daniel Bryan should do. Will he, whatever. Yeah, I could see it being Andrade. For sure. I could see it being Andrade, but I but man, every time they're debuting a new guy, it's like, good God. But I guess we'll see what happens, but I don't. It won't matter to me if it's a big guy, big time person or not.
Yeah, I mean, we will definitely see. So our last couple of matches on this show, women's title match, I think might be the best book match, the most well booked match on this show. Sheeta versus Britt Baker. I mean, and the only thing I think maybe people care about is the 1 year she's been champion in the no fan era. What's your thoughts? Does Britt Baker finally become, the basic face of this company for the women's division, or do you keep the title on Sheeta? I mean, I feel like it has to be Baker.
Absolutely. 100% Britt Baker wins the match. I think there's no doubt that she wins the match, in my opinion.
Are you interested in this match though, or what do you?
Yeah. I mean, it was Britt Baker's, best match before the match with Thunder Rosa. And so, yeah, I think I'm interested in the match. I'm interested to see how they have Britt Baker win. But I think Britt Baker has to win the match. They've been building up to this and her coronation for a long time. I think next to the EVPs and one or two of the wrestlers, she's been the most, the best booked, not best booked, but best, most highlighted person in the company, probably top 10, easily top 10. And by far the most highlighted woman next to like maybe Jade. So they've done a great job with her. She's done a great job of developing her personality and her character and her gimmick. And, I mean, I remember when she came out when they're like, Britt Baker's from Pittsburgh, so we all need to cheer her. And she came out and it was like, all right, it's fine. And she basically kind of pulled the Seth Rollins on the fans, and it was great. So I think it's her time. I think she absolutely deserves it. And we'll see. But yeah, I definitely see her winning, and I think she should.
I agree. So quickly on these last couple of matches, Young Bucks versus Kingston and Moxley. I'd love to see a title change here because it will take Moxley out of the main event scene, but still make him a key part of this match. But I don't think they take the titles off of the Bucks at this point. I think it could be a really, really good match, not on the level of FTR or Page and Omega with the other title matches they've had, but I do think that they can have a really good match.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good match. I don't see the Bucks losing the titles. They're on a roll. Again, don't love them as heels, especially Nick Jackson. But I think it should be a really, really good match. It should be a fun match. I think they're going to do a lot of fake blood, which is going to be annoying, but it should be a good match, and I see the Young Bucks winning.
Okay, so before we get to the main event, quickly.
Oh, that's a question for you. What is the main event? What's been the best hyped match of this show?
Sheeta versus Britt Baker.
No, not even close. What's been the most hyped match?
Oh, hyped. I thought you said best built. Most hyped is Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle in one of their big time matches, Stadium Stampede, saying that this won't be, the laughing. This will actually be, a hard fought match. I think you may have to put this on last because it's one of those things where you have people sitting in a full crowd, which we didn't get to talk about, a full crowd sitting there, just looking at a screen for 20 minutes. It almost feels like it should be the main event if you're having that situation, but I just think that you're putting the world title on last. But
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think with the way they've hyped it, I think it should go on last. But I also am a traditionalist and like the world title match being last. So either or, but I could definitely see this main eventing. Absolutely could see it.
All right, so quickly here, Stadium Stampede, Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle. If the Inner Circle lose, they can no longer be a group. I'm going to say two things on this. One, I think it's really hurt the company, doing these stipulations, especially with Cody not being able to be in the world title scene, supposedly ever. Maybe when he turns heel, he'll get rid of that, just saying,
I don't think that's that big of a deal. I don't think it's hurt the company.
Well, I'm just saying these stipulations where, you kind of, they keep to the stipulation. So I do think it makes the match more believable, but I think the Inner Circle should lose. But, all the t-shirts they sell and everything else, it just seems like maybe they won't do it. But I think the Pinnacle should win.
Yeah, I think the Inner Circle is going to win. I think they're just kind of starting their ascent as a babyface group. You've got the Elite who are heels, you've got the Pinnacle who are heels, and so I think then it makes sense. You got the Pinnacle who are heels, so it makes sense you have the Inner Circle be baby faces. So and after Jericho was thrown off a cage into a queen mattress, it makes sense for them to go this direction and have them win. So yeah, I see Inner Circle winning the match. And also in these goofy matches, they'll tend to have baby faces win. So That's what I'm anticipating.
All right, final match of the night. AEW World Title match, three-way. First, I believe, three-way match they've had for a title in the company, I believe.
Wow.
Omega versus Orange Cassidy versus Pac. Going into the match, Pac has beat both of these guys in singles matches in the past. Omega's not losing the title, you would think, especially as well as doing the belt collector gimmick.
And Corey, that's the thing to me. Like you said before, a match that's an AEW main event, AEW Dynamite main event. That's what this feels like to me. This doesn't feel like a match that should headline a pay-per-view. Because Pac has been, I don't even know what matches he's been winning. He's number two contender. I don't know how. Cassidy, I don't know what he's been doing to win these matches. So Adam Page is number one contender. He lost one match and then that's it. So to me, they've been very cute in their ranking system, in their booking, to keep Adam Page away from Omega purposefully, which is fine. But then you can't tell me these are the two number one contenders. These are the two top contenders. Come on, what are we doing here? So to me, this feels like for instance, right? Will this match be better than Omega against Phoenix? No, of
course not.
But did it have a similar feel where it's like, there's no way he's going to lose this match. It'll be a fun match. It'll be a good match. And Phoenix apparently is not on the show because he got hurt at a show in Mexico. But so that's a bummer that he's not on the show. But it just does not feel like there's any way Omega can lose. And I don't feel like, not only that, because it doesn't make sense for him to lose, it doesn't feel like they've built up either one of these guys to win. That's the issue. So, and it's hard when you got a show and you got, they built up the blood and guts. And I mean, Jericho, and I mean, they had 18 segments. And maybe, Corey, that's the problem. They need to figure out the balance. They need to figure out the balance of how to build certain guys. We love Jericho. He's a ratings draw. We know that. I think that's been proven that he's one of the guys that drives the ratings. But also, he's 50 years old. Like, how long is he going to wrestle for? You have to continue to build other people. So, yeah. Long-winded way of saying Omega is going to keep the title. I cannot see how he loses.
I agree. I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be a solid in-ring show, just like the WWE last pay-per-view, which we weren't super into. I think it will deliver in-ring.
I don't think they'll have a match as good as Reigns and Cesaro, but
we'll see. I mean,
I don't think they've had a match as good as Reigns and Cesaro on AEW. So this year.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
What match would you put on that level?
Phoenix versus.
Oh, come on with this Phoenix Omega. Get out of here. Get out of here. There was no psychology in the match. You don't love the psychology. There's no psychology in the match. It was a bunch of spots. I mean, it was a good match, but come on, the drama, the storytelling, it wasn't even close.
All right.
Come on.
All right, so let's do something a little bit different this week. Due to the fact that we didn't have, an AEW show to go through. 25 years ago today, Scott Hall made his debut on Nitro, which was basically the beginning of the NWO, one of the biggest stables and storylines in the history of the business. Any thoughts or remembrance of that night with Scott Hall, debuting, and what your thoughts were? I know it's 25 years ago, but it is one of those watershed moments.
Yeah, so I would do this. What was I? So I was okay. So I was watching wrestling like every week, and I'd go to the store and I'd get ice cream. I'd get like a half-gallon of ice cream, and this is when when you're 16, you could eat like this. And I'd have a half a gallon of ice cream. I'd have a bowl of cereal at 8, a bowl of cereal at 9, a bowl of cereal at like 10:30 for the main event. It's like if I ate like that now, I'd be 800 pounds. But no, so it's just really funny. So I don't remember that specific. I was sitting there when, of course, right. But I remember more than anything. I remember the hype for like what they were doing every week, and I remember as a wrestling fan, I don't think I've ever been more excited for what was going to happen the next week. You know, when they do the thing and okay, we have this long-term storytelling and, you know, WWE, and it's like, oh, well, we forgot. And now it's some other shit. Like every week you're like, holy shit, what's going to happen this week? What's going to happen this week? What's going to happen this week? Yeah. And so I think it was one of the best hyped things of all time. I mean, of all time. I mean, yeah, absolutely. One of the best hyped angles in the history of pro wrestling. Probably top 5, maybe top 3, maybe number 1. Now, because they didn't capitalize on it as well as they probably should have. But it was just so well done, man. It was so freaking well done. Yeah, and as I've said before, and I've said this to people, and people, DX, get the fuck out of here. The NWO is the most important stable in the history of professional wrestling. It spawned. We have AEW now because of the NWO. That's why we have AEW, because of the NWO, because of a fucking hand sign, because of New Japan starting the Bullet Club. The music is similar. It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it was great. And I missed some of those years in high school. Like I missed I think my junior year. I missed part of it. Was my buddy's like, oh, wrestling's stupid, don't watch. And then him and I got into it. And I was like, I'm just gonna start watching wrestling again. I don't care. I'm a dork. I'm gonna keep watching it. And you know, that was whatever 24 years ago, and I haven't stopped since. But I should have stopped probably a few of those years. But no, it was just great. It was really, really great to anticipate and be excited for like what's gonna happen. What are they gonna do this week? Who's gonna appear? Is there gonna be a new guy next week? Because this is, you know, before the internet really was. I think it's before, maybe like the internet's like infancy. Yeah, it was like its infancy. So like you didn't know about you heard some stuff about rumors, but it was like you really didn't know what the fuck was going on. And so yeah, that my buddies and I were huge wrestling fans, so we would talk about it all the time. Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great time in wrestling. It was a lot of fun.
I mean, I still remember to this day because it was a big moment. Basically, it was the restarting of the actual wrestling wars. But Scott Hall came into the ring and he goes, "You may know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." And it just started the idea: is he coming in invading from WWE or WWF at the time? And then like 2 weeks later, you had Kevin Nash, and then you had Bash at the Beach with that scumbag Hogan. I mean, it was just all of these things and all these careers that were made as a result of this, where you didn't know if this guy was if it was like part of an invasion angle from WWE. I mean, if you were like a super smart fan, you may have known that he wasn't under contract, but you didn't know what was really going on and stuff.
I mean, Corey, not really. Like there wasn't really that many the internet was in its infancy.
Right.
There weren't really that many super smart fans. I mean, there are fans who like knew things were more of a work and whatever, but like you didn't, even if you knew he was under contract, you didn't know like where things were going.
Right.
Like you had no idea where things were going, and you didn't know like are they bringing? I think smart fans are that whole term is kind of stupid. I mean, because I think about it like pro football fans, like right, like everyone's talking. I think there's smart fans in every sport who kind of know about the sport, who know more about the sport than others, and that's not just from reading the dirt sheets. That's from like watching the sport for a long time and kind of knowing what happened. So you can assume he's under contract, but you're still like, this seems strange to me.
Sure, right.
Like something we've never seen before. And Bischoff's talked about it a lot on the 83 Weeks podcast that he has. Yeah, no, it was And I always liked WCW more. I was always more of an NWA WCW guy. So yeah, no, it was great. It was great.
Absolutely. And as maybe some more of these anniversaries come up, the 25th anniversary of like this, we'll maybe go back and, depending on the week, talk a little bit about some of these events. Like I said, a couple of weeks later was Kevin Nash coming in and just really starting all of this. But Jay, we went over a lot of cool things this week. How about you let people know how to follow the Life Group podcast and ourselves?
Sure. So we're part of the great Life Group podcast. Monday, we've got Dong City with Henry and Vince, baseball podcast. Tuesday, we've got The Audible with Matt and Randy, a football podcast.
Oh, can anybody stay healthy in MLB or actually hit the ball? I mean,
yeah, I know. So right now with the Audible, things are a little slow with football, but things will definitely pick up with mini camps to start like the beginning of June. So
we got Julio Jones situation, and
well, I mean, where's he? I mean, where are these guys going? I mean, you can just, hey, Rogers, where's he gonna go? I don't know. Where's he gonna go? I don't know. I mean, yeah, we're not talking about football now. We're talking about, fucking Young and the Restless. Thursday, you've got us, Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. Friday, you've got the Step Back with Jacob and Leon. I mean, they probably should have two podcasts. I don't know how they're wrapping all these playoffs in one show. And then Sunday we've got Total Bases with Felipe and Sean, more of a kind of fantasy take on baseball. So yeah, you've got podcasts 5 out of the 7 days. You got one weekend show in there. So have at it. The shows are good. They're interactive. It's a bunch of good guys doing these shows, including us. So check it out.
Absolutely. And of course, if you want to check us out on the social media, we're on Twitter and Instagram at WorkShootPod. Jason and myself will be on there during the week talking about the big things going on. And, I was on there today, talking about all the different things with the commentary changes. So, I mean, we'll see how that goes. But Jay, I believe there's one other podcast that I'm involved with. You've been on the show, on one of our best shows, talking about how much of a jerk I am. But Jay, would you remember what that comedy podcast is?
You don't know Jackie. You don't know Jackie, Andy, Jackie Rachel, Jackie Corey, the comedy podcast for the ages. Corey, what do you guys got this week?
It was the first of our 3 episodes with Ken Beck, who was on season 1 of Russian Doll. We talked about catching up, where we actually all worked in real life together before he went out to Hollywood. Also talking about this past week with the Seth Rogen. I did not say this about 6 times in the podcast. I actually said Seth Rollins, but Seth Rogen situation with James Franco, with all the charges and accusations against James Franco, and basically.
Wait, Seth Rogen's got charges against him too?
No. But the idea of one of the conversations was, if you have a friend who basically is accused of doing this horrible shit, what do you do? Do you cut them off? Do you help them? Do you try to get them to, do you believe the fact that this stuff has happened? I mean, like me and you years ago, which we won't talk about on this show, I did something that was totally wrong and stupid. And it took a little while for us to get back to a good place, but it took time, So I mean,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a hard thing. I mean, I know there's a thing with Oh, so you said Seth? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, I don't know how you. It's a hard thing to come back from. Also, there's also the idea, right, of the public and being, supporting your buddy, but you're also freaking making movies and you want people to watch. You want people to watch your shit, and we know Hollywood also is very liberal in terms of even though it's very hard for Black people to get movies made and all this, gay and lesbian. It's hard for people. It's hard for the LGBT community. There, whatever. Yeah, it's super liberal. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. So when you have this appearance of that makes it even harder. So who knows what Franco did, what he didn't do? I read a little bit of the stuff. It sounds like
Not good.
You know, when there's smoke, there's fire, right? You know, if one person says something, oh, you know, who knows, right? When a number of people say the same thing, it's like, well, you know, it's like the guy who did the Avengers, you know, and did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Right now, there's so much stuff up there about him. It's like, yeah, okay, Josh Whedon or whatever, you know. So that's interesting. That's an interesting concept. I'll be checking that show out.
And like I said, last thing on this quickly, he said he hasn't worked with him since 2017, but they're both producers on this upcoming Pamela Anderson, Tommy Lee movie. So who knows how much they're actually talking or not. But one of those shows that you should definitely check out every week. Right now we're going every 2 weeks based on scheduling. But definitely check out You Don't Know Jackie, just like the Workshoot Wrestling Podcast, wherever you check out podcasts. Leave each show a review, and we will shout you out. 5 stars is always fun. It makes people find our show easier, and with the algorithms of Apple, it helps people find us. So we do appreciate it if you give us a 5-star review on either one of those shows. But Jay, last thing before we quickly get out of here, you brought up, and especially with Double or Nothing, is having a full crowd this week. What's your thoughts? And of course, I'll chime in on this, on the idea of starting in a couple of weeks. MLW will, AEW, I believe Impact, mostly for Slammiversary. ROH, I believe, is doing it. Everyone is coming back with live shows. We had the big one, WrestleMania, but how much is this going to change everything?
And Edge has talked about this. For the most part, these promoters, bookers have been on the, thinking on the fly with stuff. Orange Cassidy became a star because of the fans.
Absolutely, yeah.
He was supposed to be, a kind of mid-card guy, and he became a bigger star because of the fans. And we see that in wrestling all the time. Daniel Bryan was supposed to be a mid-carder, but because of the fans. So we don't know who the fans think is a star. It'll also be interesting, over the past year or so, who AEW has kind of told us is a star and who WWE tells us are stars. And, are they truly, is Bobby Lashley where we think he is? Darby Allin has shown himself well even before the pandemic, but where are some of these guys who are being hyped in comparison to the company's eyes between the fans' eyes? Because wrestling, one cool thing about wrestling is it's a fan-driven business, right? Like the fans really oftentimes control who's a star and who's not a star. Not always, but oftentimes they do. CM Punk would not have been CM Punk without the fans. They were not planning on pushing him ever. And CM Punk's talked about that. So who is the next person to get the hype, to get the rub, to become a big star that we don't know yet? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Well, I guess we'll find out in July. Shit's going to blow up in July. It's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Your boy's going to have off. Well, I'll still be working, but whatever. But yeah, it'll be I'll be able to wake up whenever I want. So that'll be the thing. So yeah, it's just gonna be a really, really fun month of wrestling. All these guys who are free agents are not free agents anymore. So July is gonna be June, I think, is gonna be a little weird. We got the Hell in a Cell that they always push down our throats. We've got AEW being on 18 million different times during time slots. The NBA is really going to be heating up. But I think after June, you're going to see that kind of that explosion. You're going to have some pay-per-views. You're going to have to push for SummerSlam. You're going to have fans. So, this month will be probably, a little quieter, or next month, I should say June. And then after that, it's going to be, it's going to be, let's go. Let's see how everything goes.
I totally agree. I mean, it will be really interesting to see how fans react to things that, us on the quote unquote inside, feel are good. And it'll be interesting to see who gets those crowd reactions and how much, after a year plus, especially Vince McMahon, because he's, the cranky old man there, and is being able to go and tell people who to root for and who not to with the Thunderdome, how much that will affect his plans and if he'll be able to go and evolve, as
And also the show in general, like it's not a good show. So, how what do they do to change the show to make the show better? Seeing that fans are not reacting to the show. So what type of changes they implement in the actual show rather than like, one wrestler or two wrestlers? What do they do for the show? So that, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about this as it goes along. It'll be the first big test is this Sunday. Yes, it's going to be in Daly's place, but it will be a full crowd. We'll see how people react to certain things and what isn't over, and we'll talk more about it as the weeks go along, and we'll see how WWE did, selling tickets wise. I haven't had a chance to look at it for their first couple shows. I believe went on sale on Wednesday. So, Jason, it's been another entertaining week, and as always, my friend, the final word is yours.
I think we're done here. See ya.